Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to the Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast with PJ and Mike. Now find yourself a seat at their table.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast with PJ and Mike. Today, we're going to talk about a little concert that I went to. I'll call it a concert. I don't know if that's necessarily the right word, but it was a Candlelight Orchestra celebrating and a tribute to the musical compositions and scores of Hans Zimmer.
Whoa, I'm jealous, man. Nice.
Have you ever, let me start with this. Have you ever done one of these Candlelight Orchestra things?
No, I always wanted to do it. My wife, there's one, I think, in the city, or maybe the one that you went to, where they have music from Bridgerton.
Yes, I've heard of that one too.
But I haven't, I always want to check. I actually wanted to see Hans Zimmer live in concert. But
so did I. I wanted to go to that too.
His tickets were, way
astronomical.
Way overpriced. As much as I love him, Mike, I'm not.
I couldn't justify it.
No offense, Han. You're not the Stones. You're not. You're not the Beatles, bro. You know. So
and also, like, no disrespect to Hans Zimmer, whose work I love. You're also not John Williams, so you know what I mean, like.
Right.
And I will actually touch on that a little bit when I start going through the
catalog,
through the experience. But you know, so let me tell you how this went about, because I didn't plan originally to set out to go to one of these things. I was doom scrolling on Instagram, and I came across this ad, and it said Candlelight Orchestra on Long Island, and I was like, well, I'm on Long Island. I wonder if this thing is local. And then it said Garden City, and I'm like, well, that's only 20 minutes away. And I'm like, I wonder if they're going to do anything that I'd actually care about. And I was going through the list of what existed. And I will tell you, it's some of the ones that existed were, I saw a Candlelight Orchestra of the music of ABBA.
Oh,
they had Bridgerton, I think was one of the ones I saw. They have one I will go back to, which is Taylor Swift. At some point I will hit that one. They do the music of Queen, but the one that got my interest the most was the music of Hans Zimmer.
Sure.
The tribute to Hans Zimmer. And I was like, well, I do enjoy a good musical composition and score for a movie.
Yeah.
He's done some phenomenal work. So I was like, well, I'm interested in this. Let me see where it is. But, you know, Long Island is not a small place, so I'm not going to drive 3 hours out to the Hamptons to go see it.
Yeah.
Where is it? Garden City. And I'm like, well, that's 20 minutes. I'm like, what location would this be in Garden City? I couldn't picture where this would be. So I'm looking into the tickets. It's at the Cathedral of the Incarnation, which is an Episcopalian church, right off of Franklin. So it's you know, it's really not far at all. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get tickets to it. How much could this be? Because that's my next thing. I'm like, I've never done anything like this before.
Yeah.
I don't know that I want to spend a shit ton of money on this, because it's not really Hans Zimmer. It's just an orchestra. Let me see how much the tickets are. And there's 3 levels. There's the A level, B level, and C level. Now you're in a church, so you've been in a church. So picture your A zone is up front, where like the
altar is all
but
that.
Where the altar would be, like you're up front. You're the front row in the church. Like then, you know, your B zone is the middle of the church, and your C zone is in the back. We found out about this a week before there was going to even happen. So by the time I bought tickets, there was only C zone tickets left. And the range was like, the front was around 90 to 100 and change. And then the middle was like 80-ish. And then the back was like 40 to 60, like that.
Right.
So really, the most expensive ticket was only slightly over 100 that I saw. And we wound up paying like 40 or 50 bucks a ticket, because we got zone C, because that was all that was left. And I said to myself, self, this is a church.
Right.
If I'm in the back, I'm not in the nosebleeds of that stadium here. I am 10 feet further back than the guy in the front. So I think I'm going to be okay in zone C. So I was like, I'm going to take a chance on it.
Right. So it's not like it's assigned seating, but not. You're basically sitting in the pews, right?
Yeah. It's not like you have to sit in this pew. You just get there. These are your zones. Pick whatever seat you want in the zone. And it's like sitting exactly in a church pew.
Right. Somewhat of a first come, first serve within your section.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Kind of like bleachers. We got there, right. Okay.
Yeah. And we got there early enough to get the first row of zone C. So it was not like too far back.
PJ, no, I just want to say aside, isn't it kind of funny? Like you're paying to sit inside of a church. I don't know. I just find that, you know what I mean? Like it's,
it is.
What a twist of fate, isn't it?
Yeah, because I'm like, well, you know, but then I started thinking about that too. I'm like, this is a very smart idea for a church. Churches do have great acoustics.
And just the whole...
They're designed for it.
Yeah, just the whole...
And so you
It just
put
makes
an orchestra.
exactly.
It's gonna sound good. So I'm like, all right. And I tell Jen, I'm like, do you have any interest in maybe going to see an orchestra in the church? And she's like, of what? I'm like, Hans Zimmer's music. And she was a good sport. She was like, yeah, I'll go. It could be fun. So we're like, all right. And now, and you know me, I am not prefer comfort over fashion.
Right.
But as I'm getting ready to go to this thing, I'm like, but it's in a church. I can't wear like, I felt like
Yes,
I
I know you're
couldn't
gonna
wear sweatpants and like a big giant hoodie
right. You had to get
in like a church.
a little
You
bit
know what
more
I mean? You know what I
formal.
mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, I have to at least put on like a pair of jeans, a decent pair of shoes, and like a decent shirt. I'm in a cathedral. So I'm like, I get like
PJ's not gonna wear his like Degeneration X t-shirt.
right. Right. I'm like, I can't possibly go into this church with like I'm wearing
Right.
a Rick and Morty sweatshirt today. I'm like, I can't. This is a house of the Lord.
Right.
So now it's time to go to the show. And we're like, all right, we'll hit the diner up on the way and then we'll go. So we drive to where the cathedral is. And the first thing we say when we find the cathedral is like, this is a beautiful location. This is
Right.
like I don't know. The difference between I guess a cathedral and a church is like is
Yeah. Like
is when
day
you
and
see
night.
it, you know
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I don't know how else to put it. It's very almost very gothic, very ornate, much more elaborate, I would say, than like when we walk into again,
Yeah.
St. Bernard's for everyone who's listening was the local church that we grew up next to.
Yeah.
This was, a much more refined
Yeah.
architecture here.
Yeah. It has like marble and stone from
yeah,
what you showed me the
yeah,
pictures.
yeah. I sent you some pictures and like it was a beautiful place. So I'm like, all right. Here's what I found interesting. Before we even get into the church, there is no parking lot.
Wow. Okay.
The church that I mean, it was dark, maybe I just missed it, but everyone that was there was, like, parking alongside, like, winding roads that circle the church, and we were just kinda pulling up and finding a place to park. I'm like, "Well, this is interesting, okay, that's not what I expected a church
Right.
parking lot, not what they did here. Okay, that was fine, we got a decent spot." We walk inside, and they greet you. It's run by a company called Fever. I don't know if you've heard of them, but
Oh,
they put
yeah,
on a
yeah.
lot of these sort of events.
Yeah.
And you're met by a Fever representative, and they take your ticket so they know where you're going to go. They walk you to it. They explain how the whole process works. And so now as we're walking into the church, they're like, "Okay, you're in Zone C. I'm going to walk you there. Have you ever gone to one of these events before?" We said no. They said you can take as many pictures as you want up until the show starts, and then you are not allowed to take any pictures until the very last song. And the orchestra will tell you this is the last song. Feel free to take pictures and video if you'd like. But it's the only time you can have your phone out. They ask you very kindly not to put your phone out and to just enjoy the show,
Right.
which
gotcha.
I liked.
Yeah.
I get very annoyed when I watch people at any event watching it through the phone. Like
I know. I know.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, that's pretty cool. So we get in, we find our seats, we save our seats with our jackets, and we start to walk around. The first thing I notice about the candlelight, they're not real candles.
Oh. Okay.
Yes. And at first I was like, huh, I thought these were going to be real candles. They look real. They're like I don't know how to explain it. You know, the ones
Yeah.
you put the little light on, but it's like a little, almost like a piece of paper like that, right? And it just kind of like wiggles back and forth. And it looks exactly like a real flame. And I was like, this is a church. They didn't have enough candles to light this up. I must have kicked the fake candle 17 times before the show even started. I'm like, I understand now
Why
the church was like, you cannot use real candles because Clumsy Jones is going to light us on fire and it's going to be a problem. So I understood. So it's like, okay, I
was
get
surprised
it.
they didn't have maybe ones like maybe behind like
yeah, I think like the ones that were like real
those.
high and all that
Yeah.
stuff might have been some real ones.
Right,
But
but
anything on
still.
the floor that people could touch,
Yeah.
those are not real flame. So I was like, all right. When you see Hans Zimmer, and we've probably all seen videos of him recording his music,
Yep.
he has a pretty big orchestra.
Oh yeah, huge. He's got
This is not
drummers, like drum set, guitar players. Yeah.
This was 4 people.
Whoa, a 4-piece.
There was a guy on a bass, I think maybe a violin, a fiddle, something. I don't.
Right.
2 violinists. That was it. It was only 4 people. So I was like, oh,
Wow.
I'm
So
like,
no piano player or organist.
no,
So it was
no,
some kind of cello, two
like
violinists.
a cello, like yeah,
Wow. Okay.
yeah, which blew my mind. I'm like, well, maybe someone's gonna play the church organ or something. Like I'm
Right,
like, just
okay.
4 people, which I found fascinating because I really expected there to be
Yeah,
more people.
I thought
Right.
maybe I don't know, maybe 8, maybe most
8, 10 people,
Yeah,
something,
exactly.
right? No,
Wow.
just 4. So I was, because I'm walking around and I was taking pictures before the show started. And I'm like, oh, it's gonna kind of see what's happening up there. I wouldn't expect like big drums and stuff, but
Yeah.
only 4 seats. I'm like, that's interesting. All right, it's getting close to showtime, which was 8:30. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna take my seat and get ready for the show. Orchestra walks out and they start, and now I'll get into the music that they played. And feel free to stop me anytime if you have questions or interested in any of it.
Hmm.
They start off with what I think you would enjoy. I'm pulling my list up here. They start off with Time
Oh, from
from a little
Inception.
picture you may have heard of called Inception. Yes.
Yeah, I'm surprised they started with that one because it's like a little bit. I don't want to say it's a ballad, but like usually you want to start with something cooking, like like Pirates of the Caribbean, dun dun dun
Yeah.
dun dun,
So
like
I
really
think
get
the
the crowd
reason they,
zipped.
yeah,
But maybe they
I
wanted to
think the
set the
reason they
tone.
start off with Time was because people are still filtering in a little bit to their seats as they start to play. So maybe they wanted people to be able to like ease into it because, before
Yeah.
you get into anything big. That was my original thought. Beautifully done by these 4 people. Let me get you the name of the orchestra, give them a shout out. I have it written down here. The Highline String Quartet is what they were called. And they do a wonderful job of that as everyone's kind of finishing up their seating. The lights, they turn the lights out in the church, so it's all dark except for the candles, which is very cool mood, very cool vibe there. Yeah, it looked awesome. And then after that, they kind of introduce themselves and who they are. They introduce the members of the quartet, and they basically say we're here to celebrate the music of Hans Zimmer. And what I like is that right after they play the song, they go, "Does anyone know what that piece was from?" And everyone's like, "That was from Inception." Yeah, right. And
Yeah.
everyone claps, and they're like, "Great!" We can tell we have fans here. They give you a little history about Hans Zimmer, how he started in a band.
Hmm.
I think it was Video Killed the Radio Star. I think he was part of that, wasn't he? So,
Yeah. He actually plays guitar. Like he's like one of his main
yeah,
interests is guitar. Yeah.
yeah. They give you a little history about that. And then what they do is in between each song or each couple of songs, they introduce the next thing they're going to do. So they started with Time. They talk about the movie and all that. Then they go, the next section, we're going to focus on some of the feel good movies that Hans Zimmer has
Right.
composed for. And so they go, the next 2 pieces that we're going to do are going to be This Land from The Lion King.
Hmm.
And they go, not a lot of people know this, but he scored a rom-com, The Holiday.
Oh yeah.
And
Hmm.
they do, I don't know if it was like a medley or something, but a couple of like a piece from The Holiday.
Right.
And then they go through that. And then they immediately start doing The Lion King. And you immediately are like, I'm in The Lion King. Like they do it again. I can't say enough about for a 4-piece orchestra, the robustness and the wholeness of the pieces
Right.
that
It
they
sounds
did.
like it really like even though it was 4 of them, it really sounded full. So that's
Yes,
what I'm understanding.
it sounded very full. I'm sure the location helped with that, being in the church,
Yeah.
like and the acoustics in a tight room. And they even make a point to say, how when they were rehearsing, it sounds different than when the people are there because it's such a small location that even the people sitting in there affects how the sound is. So
Wow.
they were saying like every show that they do in a venue like this is unique unto itself. Even if it's the same songs, it always sounds a little different. It was cool the
Right.
way they gave you some of that history.
Is there a conductor of some sort? Is there like a band leader who kind of goes like, okay,
There's
1, 2,
there's
3.
like
Okay.
they have like one, I guess you call him the band leader who kind of starts everything, but there's not a conductor in the front doing there's none of
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
It's just these 4 dudes and like you said, the band leader. So they do those 2 songs and The Lion King, easily recognizable because we've all seen it a million times in our life. The Holiday, less recognizable because
Yeah, it's not one of his big hits, but
right. Which I enjoyed. I like that they did some of the ones that weren't
mhm.
the huge hits because you get to hear stuff you don't usually hear. And then after we got through their lighthearted sort of
Yeah.
feel good section, they move into some of the more war and I might have the order a little bit mixed up, but I know the ones they've done anyway. The darker ones. So they
Yeah.
do Submarine from Dunkirk. And they did Honor from the Pacific. That was I think on HBO or something like that. It was a miniseries.
Yeah.
And those were, I mean, these are beautiful pieces of music.
Yeah.
And I've seen both of those. I don't know if you've seen them or not,
I haven't
but
seen Pacific. I've seen
Dunkirk,
Dunkirk.
I think you've seen, right?
Yeah, of course.
So it's the one I think you have like the bombers and stuff in there and
Yeah,
everything.
yep.
It's that scene. And again, I really can't stress enough that for 4 people,
Right.
just the fullness and completeness of the music. Everyone in the audience, like after every song, everyone erupts and claps and is like blown away by these guys. And the interaction with them in the crowd, they talk about the pieces with such respect in between each one and
Yeah.
give you a little bit of history on the songs, which I really appreciated. And as you're watching it, right, and these people are just engulfed in these candles, it looks visually so stunning. But I looked around the room too, and some people at one point stopped even watching them. And I saw people with their heads down, just taking in the music, really like really listening. And I feel like if you go to like a concert for a band or whatever, you enjoying the band, you're watching the band and you're watching that show. But this was such a small, intimate, people had their heads down, just really taking in the sound and the music and all of that. And it was really, really cool to see. Very cool atmosphere. I really, really enjoyed that part of it too.
Yeah.
Then they get on there and they do another introduction for the next section. And I loved it because they go, what Hans Zimmer is known for now is his superheroes. He goes, he scored a lot for DC, and they mentioned DC Comics, and they said that really started with a Dark Knight, with the Batman Dark Knight series. So they do a Dark Knight from the Dark Knight. Yeah. And I'll pause here for a moment and I'll talk about this piece specifically. When we listen to musical themes and stuff in movies, and I'll use John Williams and I'll use Danny Elfman as an example. Those are earworms. It's been how long since Superman 19, how long since Batman 89? But that's still in our head.
Yeah.
Right? Or, the Superman one we all know. Hans Zimmer doesn't necessarily do that in my opinion, in his compositions, right? I immediately recognized that it was from a Dark Knight and that it was the theme. It's not an earworm. I feel like Hans Zimmer is really putting together a musical piece that enhances the scene, but doesn't make the music almost become a character in the scene, if that makes sense. And while I'm listening to him do a Dark Knight, that was what I really enjoyed. I enjoyed the whole show, but superheroes is my thing. So
Right.
I really enjoyed that. And I was like, wow. I mean, as I'm hearing it, I'm seeing the movie playing in my head. I can see the scenes. But it's also not one you're humming along to like you do with Batman 89 with Elfman. And I think that's something that sets him apart a little bit from a lot of other composers for film.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering, you're a music guy, way more than I am. So do you notice that with his work?
No, yeah, you're right on the money. Han was really definitely the composer, that kind of blew up because he was kind of like, look, he came out with Lion King. He didn't really become a household name really until he started working with Christopher Nolan.
Yep.
That's when he really kind of got on we became really this household name. But yeah, he's definitely more of a, like you said, I think someone like to compare him to, like you said, Elfman or Williams is a perfect example. Like, they came from a different school, right? So
yes,
like you need a theme song, like you need you need the jingle, and Han, his style. I think all the films he worked prior to that, everything was just make the scene, like just make this, elevate the emotions of the scene.
Right.
So I think
right
that become a product of your own invention,
Yes.
So absolutely, yeah. I think he has a lot of motifs. Like you said, it's like an earworm, but it's like when you hear it, you recognize oh, that's time,
right,
kind of thing. So yeah, definitely very accurate. And yeah, he's just, I'll say, I almost say, because I feel like ambient's not even really true because there is melody in there. He does have melodies.
Exactly.
In there. It's not like
it's very unique unto itself.
A Brian Eno or I'm trying to another composer who's very ambient, was it Angelo Belladeni, the guy who did work with David Lynch. It's just holding notes on an organ. You know what I mean? And definitely 100%. Definitely more ambient, lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And he really focuses on the emotions of the scenes to really kind of elevate it. Where
absolutely
someone
and it comes across in the when you listen to it without the movie behind it, it really comes across very strongly, which was very cool. And the next one he does in their superhero section is Wonder Woman.
Yes, I didn't realize he did someone. I always thought it was someone else. Is that the one, the guitar player? That danger. That is him. Oh,
that's Hans. Yeah, that's
maybe
Hans
someone did. I thought it was Junkie XL, who I guess maybe he did a remix of it.
Maybe might have done a remix because Junkie XL I think was involved in it, but I think he wrote it because don't forget. So Hans Zimmer was doing all of the Snyderverse music, starting with Man of Steel, and then he did Batman v Superman, which had Wonder Woman's introduction, so he was involved in that. Yeah, he did a lot for DC, and again, a magnificent job. That was actually Jen's favorite because she loves the Wonder Woman movie and the Wonder Woman theme.
Yeah,
so when they did that, the minute it came on, she was like, "Oh, this is my favorite one." So that was very cool. And then after that, they went into, I believe it was Gladiator.
Oh, nice.
And they did the Gladiator. They didn't necessarily introduce Gladiator. They did this a few times throughout the show where they would play the song and then ask the audience, "Did you recognize what that was from?" And everyone would be like, "That was from Gladiator. I remember that."
Yeah.
Because again, even though it's not that earworm type music, you immediately are brought into the film.
Yeah, you start playing it in your
I
head.
like that too.
You start playing in your head. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Because I was
And I
gonna say,
really thought that was a cool vibe. I love that they did that. I like that they introduced certain things that we're going to be in our superhero section, but maybe they don't say the song. We're going to be in this. They don't necessarily say, and then ask the crowd if they recognize it. And it's so cool when they do that and the crowd does recognize what it is.
yeah, no, that's definitely a charge. I was gonna say too,
Yeah.
when I think of Gladiator too, because I know that soundtrack very well. That's probably the one that put him on the map, was because he won an Oscar for that. And then
He did, yeah.
that, I think he won an Oscar for Lion King too. Big Gladiator, especially, I guess I'll say like the hit of that album is towards the end, "We Are Now Free" with that woman's voice. So I'm kind of curious what song they picked, because I mean that woman's vocals, is huge.
They did not have the vocals.
I'm not sure if maybe he did the Bombarian, the battle.
It was like a suite, so it was just like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they just kind of put a few of them together.
Yeah,
and went
probably
into it.
I could think of the songs. Yeah, I love that soundtrack, man.
Yeah,
So
it was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. They did an excellent job with that. Then from there, we went into what was one of my favorite ones of the night. Is Cornfield Chase.
from Interstellar. Oh yeah, I have that on my I have that.
Yeah, what a great piece that was. Again, that's one of those movies that's like, it's not a huge hit, the movie. It's not like, it's a great film, Interstellar, but it's not like in my opinion, not a huge film either, where you'd be like, that's the one you would pick, because he's done so much. But that was one of my favorite ones of the night. That was actually one of the ones where I put my head down just to listen to the music.
Yeah.
I'm like, I really want to appreciate this one. There's something about this one that's really hitting. And that was very cool. Then they went to my least favorite one of the night.
Right.
And this is not a knock on the music. It's a great piece. They did Dune.
I haven't seen those films, but when I see like, memes or clips, I always think of that another female voice going like, "Oh, no." So I'm kind of curious, how do they pull that off without,
again, it's just like they call it the Dune Suite, and it's just like samples of them as they go through, because again, you can't. And it felt like it went on forever.
That ended. That ended the show.
No, that didn't end the show. That was just their next one. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh my god, this is like watching the movie. It's taking forever, and I don't like those movies. And I knew what the next one was gonna be. They hadn't said it, but I knew what it was going to be, because they told it was only a 60-minute show, and we were hovering around an hour, and I'm like, there's no way they don't end with pirates.
Right.
So I'm like, I just want to get.
You got to play the hit. You got to play.
Exactly.
You got to play Satisfaction. You got to play Smells Like Teen Spirit. You got to do it. You got to hit. You got to play the hit.
Through the Dune music to get to Pirates, and I say suffer. It was a beautiful piece, but I just don't like the movie, and it was very long, and I really wanted to get to. I wanted to get there. We get to They tell you could take out your phones. You could record it now. It's our last song of the evening, and we get to Pirates, and the whole place loves it. There, as soon as the music comes on, everyone's like singing along with the melody, because everyone knows it, and they even say like, we're on our last song, we're going to turn this church into a pirate ship. And they make it fun, and everyone loves it because it's such high energy. So like you said, Dick, you would think they'd start with that to set the vibe.
Yeah.
It's almost like they built to having the energy.
Yes, I like that. Yeah,
which was very cool. They built up to the highest energy piece at the end, and it was fantastic. And then they end that piece, and everyone stands up, and they do a standing ovation for these guys that totally deserved it. And everyone thinks they're about to be done, right? Because they told us this is the last song, take your pictures, and then you exit stage left, right? And then after everyone stands up and they clap and we think we're done, they said, all right, we would like to play one more song for you guys.
Oh, encore.
There was a young lady sitting right in front of me, and we were like, somehow we just kind of like, we're talking, she turned around, she's like, because I think she heard me clapping more during the superhero ones or whatever, and so was she. So she was like, she looked at me, and I'm like, Man of Steel? She's like, Man of Steel? And they ended with Man of Steel.
Wow. Okay.
And we were like, Man of Steel. So that was pretty cool. Like, someone else in the audience was really anticipating. That's actually my favorite Hans Zimmer piece. not because it's just Superman, although I appreciate it because of what the movie he did it for, but I really do love that theme. I think with that theme specifically for me, having heard the John Williams music my entire life for Superman, going into Man of Steel when it first came out, I was like, I didn't know if I'd be able to accept another Superman theme in my life, right? Because you know how I feel about that character. Is someone gonna be able to top that theme for me, which is so iconic and I love it so much and it means the world to me, that John Williams theme. And then Hans Zimmer comes out with something completely different that still works so much for the character and still has that sweeping sort of music where it does uplift at the end, even though it's not I think he did such a brilliant job with that. And I think that and I think The Dark Knight were probably the two hardest things he had to do because how do you
I
top
know.
those iconic,
Oh
you know
yeah.
what I
Oh
mean?
yeah. I
How do you
wouldn't want that
top the
job.
No, absolutely. I wouldn't want that job and so he had to change things around in such a way where it felt completely different, but still true to the character and make people forget that they love the other one so much. And
Yep.
I think he nailed that so much with the theme from Man of Steel. So it was awesome to hear that. Like I said, the whole show was maybe hour and 15 minutes. Such an interesting, unique location that I wouldn't have expected to see a show in. I left there saying I would totally go to another one of these. Highly recommend it. The price point, not breaking the bank to go. It's a different way to appreciate music. I joke around about how I'm a Taylor Swift fan, but I am a Taylor Swift fan. I can't picture in my brain how would that work? Like her music, but an
Yeah.
orchestra like that. You know what I
A
mean?
couple. Yeah. Actually, for my wedding, before my wife came out, like my wedding
Mhm.
party came out, like my brother and I walked
Yeah.
up to the altar. I actually
Yeah.
we had a Taylor Swift instrumental. I don't know which
Okay.
one. Wildest Dreams, maybe.
Mhm.
I think that was it, but it was an
Yeah.
orchestration version. But yeah, that could be good. That could be really great.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say too, with Interstellar, that's amazing because that movie's heavily on organs. Because I remember
Mhm.
right before that, there's an interview with Hans Zimmer and Christopher Nolan, and because of Inception, everything with the which has been, they said we have to put away the brass section. That's why that whole movie has or it's only organs, and but there's no brass in that piece. And supposedly that's Hans' favorite soundtracks he's ever done. And then with the Superman theme, I don't have perfect pitch, but I saw this in interviews, and by chance, which is crazy, the two notes that he sweeps in the beginning is actually D and C, and it's just happened by chance that obviously it's DC Comics, and he's shifting between each note, and it just happened to work out like that. So
that's incredible.
Yeah, so
that's
pretty
wild. Really cool. Yeah,
I'm so happy you had a great time, PJ. And I just have to ask you this question. I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is at a church, right? It's a very formal event. But they're not serving like alcohol or wine.
No, there was no food or beverage or
Okay.
anything in there. No, there was no
PJ's
food
having
or
wine with the
anything in
priest, like
Yeah.
No, I just
Yeah,
curious.
there were
it
no
wasn't
snack.
that
There was
kind
no
of
snack table.
Yeah, there's no
Yeah.
right. I was just kind of curious. I
Yeah.
didn't think so, but I just figured for our audience what to
Yeah, no, there's
anticipate.
no.
Unless you go,
There was no concession stand. There was no merch booth.
right. I guess if you're pregame, right, or
Yeah. But it was such a cool event. I really did enjoy it. It was something I would totally do again. I highly recommend it. Like I said, the price point. I mean, you're not breaking the bank to appreciate this kind of music, so why not?
And
One of the guys in the orchestra actually grew up in Garden City, and this orchestra is based out of New York. So he said when they found out that they were going to be in this location, he was ecstatic to come back home and walk the streets again that he used to live in, which was pretty cool.
That's amazing. And I really encourage our listeners too. Think about orchestra. Oh, it's boring, or if you obviously for those who love movies, you're gonna like scores. But for people who are like, I want to see maybe just rock bands. I want to see pop artists. See different types of live music live. You know what I mean? It's a really different
support live music.
Yeah, and and especially different. Orchestra live. Seeing jazz musicians. It's a totally different thing. Anyway, it's like you said, it's different between people getting very meditative, or maybe even they're praying practically, to the music, really getting into it. So yeah, definitely different experience. Sounds like a really more of a collective soul, as they say. So.
Yeah. It was definitely fun. If they did one of these with other musical composers for films, I would totally go back. I would love to see other ones like that. Because like we said before, going to see like Zimmer live in concert is not something I'm gonna pay to do, but
I would want to go, but it's folks, when we say it's like overpriced, I think it was almost more expensive. I mean, this was like, whoa, the nosebleeds was crazy at Madison Square Garden. It was like $400 to sit in the nosebleeds,
Right.
I'll spend like $80 if I sit in the nosebleeds, somewhere. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna
I want to spend $400 to sit on the stage with him. I don't want to spend $400 to sit
no way.
on the bridge at Madison Square Garden.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No way.
So this was cool to be able to at least experience that somehow, his kind of music. I hope they do other composers. I would love a John Williams. I would love a Danny Elfman. Now and Silvestri.
Yeah, especially Danny Elfman music in a church. I mean, oh my God. I mean, that'd be really great.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I definitely great choice of songs. I definitely would say great choice of songs that they did. They did most of the ones you'll know, which is cool because I'm sure that's by design. They don't want to do some real deep cuts.
Wonderful, PJ. I'm so glad you had a good time.
All right.
Same time, same table.
Have a good one.
Boys and girls, lunchtime is over. For more information, visit their website at coolkidslunchtable.podbean.com. Follow the boys on all social media platforms. Just search Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast. Now get to class before you get detention.